Kherson still has two unbreached lines of defense. And for the Russians, for President Putin of Russia, this is a huge prize. If the Ukrainians take that city, it'll be humiliating for the Russians. It'll be humiliating for President Putin. So they're going to throw everything that they have at the defense of Kherson.
We'll start this morning in Ukraine. Ukraine says it's broken through Russia's first line of defence in the occupied southern region of Kherson. It won't surprise you to hear that the Russians say that the attack was unsuccessful. So, as ever, quite tricky to find out what is happening, to be sure. But let's find out more with Askold Krushelnycky, who's the Times' reporter in Lviv in the west. Morning, Askold.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for your time. So, remind us about this offensive and why it started, and why there's so much secrecy about it from the Ukrainian side.
There's been talk about an offensive to retake parts of southern Ukraine around the city of Kherson, which is the capital of a region called Kherson, which was captured early in the war without much fighting. There's been fighting now for months on the fringes of the borders there between Kherson and the neighboring region of Mykolaiv, which has been really the base for assembling Ukrainian forces. And over the last few days, Ukrainians say that they've started a massive attack and have taken some of the territory back. There's three lines of defenses, apparently, that the Russians have built radiating out of the city of Kherson. And the Ukrainians say that they've breached that first line of defense.
Ukrainians as well reporting that some Russians abandoning their positions as well.
Yes, it's not verifiable, but there's been a number of reports.
That line to Askold
by American and hello.
Apologies, Askold. We briefly lost you then. Start where you left off. You were explaining to us about these claims that some Russians have left the battlefield.
That both American and British intelligence sources have said that.
I think we'll just pause for a moment while we turn some computers on and off again and try and get Askold on a clearer line.
It's normal, actually, in Ukraine. Ukraine normally has the better internet than we do in this country.
Yeah.
So actually, it's very rare we lose someone in Ukraine because of the internet.
It's quite a surprise. As Askold was just explaining to us then, some reports, and sort of put forward as well by the UK and the US as well, their defence intelligence, claims of Russian-backed forces leaving their positions as this offensive started. Also, some reports of Russian paratroopers who were there to provide backup, fleeing the battlefield as well. But as ever with these things, who really knows what is going on when there's so little actual independent verification on the ground?
And also there's this temptation, I found this, we've been covering this for however long, that there's a temptation to believe the side you want to believe, which is Ukraine. So the stuff comes out of Ukraine and you think, well, I'd like that to be true, so I believe it. And then Russia says that, well, I'll never believe anything that Russia says. And it's quite hard to, as you say, to get independent views on it all.
Askold is back on a crisper line, I think. And welcome back, Askold. What are the Russians saying about this?
Well, the Russians, as usual, are saying that nothing happened or it didn't happen the way the Ukrainians have described. When the Ukrainians have had spectacular, successful strikes, as when the Russian flagship was destroyed, and then in Crimea, a couple of air bases were hit. The Russians say, well, there was an accidental detonation of ammunition, and it wasn't the Ukrainians at all. But then it turns out it was the Ukrainians. So the Russians are saying nothing much is happening. But as near as possible, the independent verification comes from British and American intelligence, much of it based on satellites. Images, and they have said that indeed locally recruited pro-Russian troops have withdrawn from some of the places along the front line, and Russian elite forces, paratroopers that were supposed to support them, have also fled. There is undoubtedly some changes, some advance being made by the Ukrainians. And the reason you asked earlier about secrecy is that, along with everybody else in the world, Ukrainians are using social media on both sides of those front lines, and the Ukrainians are asking them to be very cautious. That bloggers and other social media users in areas that are being sort of freed by the
Yeah.
Ukrainians don't give too much information away, which will be of value to the Russians.
And Askold, there's been a deadlock for so long in the conflict there. How much does this have the potential to really shift things back into the Ukrainians' favour?
It does have that potential, and for weeks now, a couple of months, whilst Britain and America chiefly have been providing new, modern, high precision artillery weapons and rocket systems, the talk has been of those weapons giving Ukraine a sufficient advantage to break that deadlock and be able to advance, that under the cover of these weapons, which have longer ranges and are much more precise than their Russian equivalents, Ukrainian forces can move slowly forward. And so that's happening. It's got a clear strategic value. But if Ukraine does make significant advances in the south of Ukraine, that's a huge morale booster for Ukrainians who have been, to a large extent, sitting targets for Russian missiles that can reach anywhere in Ukraine.
But where we stand today on Tuesday morning, that goal is still a long way off of recapturing the city. This is early days.
I think it is a long way off. The capital, Kherson, still has two unbreached lines of defense. And for the Russians, for President Putin of Russia, this is a huge prize. If the Ukrainians take that city, it'll be humiliating for the Russians. It'll be humiliating for President Putin. So they're going to throw everything that they have at the defense of Kherson.
Askold, thanks for your time this morning. Askold Krushelnycky, Times reporter in Lviv in Ukraine this morning.